Greg, I want to talk about some changes here. Apparently, your coalition, the Transportation Trades Department, is growing with several new affiliates. And some of these, I guess, were re-affiliated, and we're talking about the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers. Talk to me. What happened here? Explain this.
Yeah, well, this is obviously very exciting for us. This is a big moment for transportation labor in particular with the big infrastructure bill, and we had been talking to the BLET and the BMWE, both Teamster affiliates, about rejoining TTD for years now, and this just seemed like a really perfect moment to reunite. And most importantly, to bring rail labor all under one umbrella for the first time since 2005. So, as we're staring down a number of challenges, including, precision scheduled railroading, which we've discussed, and a number of other things, and implementing the infrastructure bill, this is a great time to have rail unions speaking with a unified voice once again.
Talk to me about the painters and allied trades. I thought that was kind of interesting. How did that happen, and why did that happen?
Yeah, again, we've talked to them. I think this is a reflection of the fact that the painters recognize that we are stronger together in every facet of the labor movement, and they have a lot of members who do a lot of infrastructure work, whether it be painting on bridges or other built-out infrastructure. And this is a moment where, in order to get this right, in order to make sure that we're investing this money in a way that builds good union jobs, they recognize and we recognize that having us all speak together is an important part of this.
Well, there's a lot that's going to happen here under this infrastructure bill. I mean, this thing is huge. I mean, it's well over $1 trillion. So we're going to see a lot of money going into the states. And you're going to hear a lot of people taking credit for it, even though they didn't vote for it.
That's for sure, yeah.
That seems to happen quite a lot, especially now in Washington. Talk to me about this Federal Railroad Administrator, and I guess the Senate just confirmed, is his name Amit Bose? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's Amit Bose, yes. But we were big supporters of his from early on after Biden was elected. He is a really smart guy. He's been at the FRA for a long time and understands the administration and understands the value the workers and unions bring to our railroad system. For me, the biggest frustration is that it took him almost a year to actually get confirmed. And, when you look at everything that's been happening over the past year since he was nominated, the supply chain problems and some of the safety concerns we've seen, the fact that he was held up for that long is really just a shame. And I have a lot of faith in him. He's been the acting administrator, but he's got a lot of work to do in the next 3 years here to deliver on the administration's promise when it comes to rail. But every time I hear people complaining, especially on the right, about the fact that the administration hasn't done enough to prevent the supply chain, or hasn't done this, well, maybe you should have confirmed the people that he picked to run these agencies. And we're really excited he's there, but it's a shame that it took this long.
Greg, why did it take so long? What was the problem with the conservatives?
It's politics. It's politics. You could hear any number of complaints from senators who had various holds on him. One of them was Rick Scott, who was complaining about the fact that there weren't oversight hearings on supply chain and that the administration wasn't doing enough to avert the supply chain crisis. And meanwhile, one of the people who had been key in fighting this had not been confirmed, which was Amit. Another person had complaints about the fact that he hadn't rubber stamped, a automatic track inspection waiver, mind you, because again, that was something the previous administration would have done, and this administrator decided he wanted to take a look at that waiver, so they put a hold on it. It's just little political things like that.
Yeah, just to make Biden look bad. I mean, exactly. I understand what they're doing. Speaking of which, Biden obviously just passed his first year in office, and boy, he is getting beat up in the media big time. And I have to salute the Transportation Trades Department, which you handle, and so many in labor. This email went out on Friday on behalf of the AFL-CIO, showing what Biden has done And Greg, from your mouth, tell us, give us a couple of examples of what happened on his watch. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we really need to keep all this stuff in perspective in terms of what he truly accomplished in 1 year in office. Starting with the Recovery Act, which was one of the most significant pieces of legislation at the right time that we could have possibly enacted. We did get a lot of stuff done before that in terms of rescuing our economy in the midst of this pandemic. But what he did, especially in terms of transportation, in terms of rescuing transit, passenger rail, aviation, across the board, worker safety protections built into that bill. Requirement that Amtrak recall the workers who had been furloughed. Requirements that transit systems maintain employment and maintain service routes. I mean, all that stuff was in that bill, and it truly rescued transportation systems across the country at a time when they needed it most. And that was within the first month of his administration. Mm-hmm. And then you fast forward to the end of the year, and we passed the single largest one-time investment in infrastructure in the history of our country. And that's not just, one mode. That goes across every mode, and it includes things like greening of our infrastructure through electric vehicle charging stations. Frankly, the investment in transit and passenger rail is one of the most important things you can do to green our infrastructure system. And those are the biggest investments in the history of either of those modes of transportation. It's true for bridge construction and roads. It's true for schools and broadband and our electrical grid. This is a really big deal, and we're just now starting to see the money start to flow. And I think people are going to realize as this gets out there and as we start to see improvements in every community across the country, what a significant accomplishment that was.
You think it's just going to be a matter of time before the poll numbers turn around on this? And I know people are getting hit with inflation. I mean, I get that. But you take a look at the job picture. How many people got jobs? I know there's a lot of people resigning, but when they resign, they go for a better job. That's happening in America. That's not getting the fair play. But then there's Build Back Better too. We've got that piece of legislation. So what's your thoughts going forward?
Yeah, I think Build Back Better is probably our last bite at the apple in terms of big legislation in this Congress, certainly, and potentially, depending on what happens in the midterms and in this presidency, when it comes to big, defining pieces of legislation. And I think there's a lot in there that's extremely popular in this country, and I hope that we can collectively sell the American people on why this is important and get it across the finish line. But in terms of poll numbers and in terms of people understanding the value that government and this administration brought, a lot of it's going to be in terms of when this stuff is actually delivered. That's why this infrastructure bill is so important, implementing it in the right way. We need the project delivered quickly, of course, so that people start to see the benefits of it. But it also needs to be done the right way so that we're seeing the job growth and the growth in wages and benefits that are promised in this thing. And I think as we start to see that, and if people are good, if Democrats are good at selling this and explaining it and explaining what the accomplishments were, I think you're going to see this start to turn around because there are going to be real tangible benefits for everybody in this country.
Greg, when do you see that happening? When do you think that money is going to start filtering in?
Well, we've already started seeing it. They just announced last week the bridge money, the formula funding went out. That is a first step. I know that the administration is hyper-focused on getting the rest of the formula money out and then also the grant rules to make sure that people that are applying for this money can do it in an expeditious manner. So it'll be soon. After the money goes out, of course, there is still planning processes and things like that need to be done. But I think we're going to see it move quicker than I think we're used to when it comes to government programs like this.
Well, we'll see what happens. Greg, great job as usual. Greg Regan, who heads the Transportation Trades Department of the AFL-CIO. For more information, ttd.org. You take care, my friend. We'll talk next month.